Welcome back to the deep dive. It's really good to have you here with us.
Good to be here.
We are settling in for what I think is going to be a really unique session today.
Hmm.
Usually, we're digging into these massive data sets or we're looking at these huge geopolitical trends, maybe some new breakthrough in AI.
We're usually looking outward.
Exactly, we're looking outward. But today, we are doing something a little different. We're turning the lens inward.
Deeply inward.
We are opening up a file that, I have to be honest with you, it hit me a little harder than I expected.
I think it hits everyone that way.
It's a source titled The Psychology of Vision Loss and Fear, and we are going to be laser focused on a specific episode from that material. It's called The Ghost in the Room.
It is a fascinating and, frankly, a very heavy piece of material. You're right. It feels different.
It's intimate.
It is. It's not just about optometry. We're not talking about the mechanics of the eyeball or the physics of light. It's about the feedback loop, the sometimes really destructive feedback loop between the mind and the body.
Right. It's about how our psychology, our fears, our anxieties can actually manifest as physical realities.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
And that title, The Ghost in the Room, it sounds like we're about to tell a ghost story around a campfire.
It does. It sounds like a horror movie title.
But the ghost here isn't some spirit. It's not a supernatural entity rattling chains in the attic. The ghost is anxiety. And the premise here, the absolute core mission of this deep dive, is to understand how the fear of a problem can actually become the problem itself. We're going to be unpacking a concept that the source calls phantom blindness.
Phantom blindness.
Yeah.
It is such a striking term. It immediately grabs you, doesn't it?
It does. And we need to be clear right off the bat. This isn't about hallucinations. This is not about seeing things that aren't there.
No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, most people are familiar with the concept of phantom limb pain, right?
Yeah.
You lose an arm or a leg in an accident. But for years afterward, you can still feel an itch on your ankle or, a cramp in your hand, even though the limb is gone.
The hardware is missing.
The hardware is missing, but the software in the brain is still running the old program. The brain's map hasn't updated.
Right. The map in the brain hasn't updated to reflect the new territory of the body.
Exactly. Now, phantom blindness flips that script completely.
How so?
In this case, the hardware, the eyes, is actually present. It's functioning. It's totally intact.
Okay.
But the software, the mind, is acting as if the entire system has crashed. It's experiencing the functional limitations of blindness, that constriction of life that comes with it, even though the eyes are actually seeing the world perfectly.
That is a wild concept to wrap your head around.
It is.
So technically, you look at a medical chart and it says 20/20 vision.
Yep. Perfect vision.
But functionally, in terms of how that person is living their life, you have blindness.
Precisely. And the source material focuses specifically on the mental health toll of vision loss. Or, and this is the crucial part, the threat of vision loss.
That distinction is so important.
It's vital. You don't have to be blind to suffer from the psychology of blindness. You just have to be terrified of it. The fear acts as the blindfold.
That's the hook for me. And I want to jump right into this provocation the source offers early on. It asks us to imagine a scenario where the fear of a problem literally causes the problem. And I want to be clear for you listening, I don't mean this in some kind of, the secret manifesting, put negative energy out there kind of way.
Oh, no, this isn't metaphysical.
Not at all. I mean, biologically,
Yeah.
physiologically.
Yeah.
Can you worry so much about a problem that your body physically creates it?
The answer from this source is a resounding yes. And we're going to get into the deep physiology of that later, and it is startling.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where you read it and you think, that can't be real. And then you look at the mechanism, you go, oh, no, that makes perfect biological sense.
There's a direct link.
A direct chemical, hormonal link between your state of worry and the actual blood vessels in your eyes. But before we get to the chemistry, before we get to the molecules, we have to understand the human side of this. We have to understand the psychology.
We have to meet Arthur.
We have to meet Arthur.
Yes, let's introduce Anxious Arthur. That's the name the source gives to the central case study here. And, when I started reading this, I had a mental image of Arthur.
Of course.
I pictured someone maybe in their 70s or 80s, maybe in the late stages of a degenerative eye disease like macular degeneration.
Right, someone dealing with the physical reality of it.
Yeah, I pictured someone navigating his living room with a cane, maybe struggling to recognize his wife's face, dealing with the very real, very heavy hurdles of a disability.
That's the natural assumption. You expect a tragedy that's already in progress. You expect the anxiety to be a reaction to a catastrophe.
But that is not Arthur.
No. And that is the twist that makes this case study so important, so powerful. The source is very, very specific about Arthur's medical status.
And what is it?
Arthur has 20/20 vision.
20/20, perfect vision. I mean, it's better than mine, actually. I'm squinting at the screen right now.
It's better than most people's.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another key detail the source mentions. He has never had a bleed.
A bleed. Okay, can you give us some context on that? What does that mean?
Sure. So the source seems to be discussing this in the context of something like diabetic retinopathy or a similar vascular condition. In those conditions, a bleed is a major traumatic event. It's where a blood vessel bursts in the back of the eye and obscures vision.
So it's a sign the disease is getting worse.
It's a major sign that the disease is progressing. Arthur hasn't had one, ever.
So physically, she's clean.
Physically, on paper, Arthur is the success story. He's the patient every ophthalmologist wants to see. His retina is flat, the macula is clear, the vessels are intact.
Yeah.
If you just looked at his chart without ever meeting him, you'd say, this guy is doing great, he's healthy.
He is the best case scenario physically.
Yeah.
But mentally.
Mentally, he's the worst case scenario. He is a wreck. He is living in a state of, well, the source calls it absolute torture.
So let's unpack his behavior, because the source gives us this list of symptoms, but they aren't physical symptoms like blurry vision or dark spots.
No.
They're behavioral symptoms. They're rituals. The first one that just jumped out at me, and I think anyone who has ever had a health scare will relate to this, was the checking.
The constant checking.
The source says he checks his vision every 10 minutes.
I want to just pause on that for a second. And for you listening, just really think about what that looks like in practice.
Every 10 minutes.
Try to visualize Arthur's day. Every 10 minutes. That means 6 times an hour. If he's awake for, say, 16 hours a day, that is almost 100 times a day.
100 times. That is relentless. It's a full-time job.
Imagine the disruption. I mean, he's trying to live his life. Maybe he's in conversation with his wife.
Or watching a football game.
Or trying to write an email. And suddenly this internal alarm goes off. Ding. 10 minutes. And he has to pause.
And he probably tries to make it look natural, right? So people don't notice what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. But he can't help it. He covers one eye with his palm. He finds a focal point, a clock on the wall, a line of text on a screen, maybe a specific leaf on a tree outside his window.
He's treating his eyes like scientific instruments that need constant calibration. He's not using them to see the world. He's just testing them.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's testing them. He checks for blurriness. Is the edge of that clock sharp? Is it maybe a tiny bit fuzzier than it was 10 minutes ago?
Then he's checking for spots.
Right. Are there any floaters? Is there a dark patch in the corner of his vision? Then he switches eyes, left eye, right eye, compare and contrast. Is the left one slightly dimmer? Is the color saturation the same?
It sounds exhausting. Just describing it makes me feel tense.
It is incredibly exhausting. And here is the kicker, right? What is he looking for in all this?
Reassurance.
He's looking for reassurance. He's looking for proof that he is okay.
And then, presumably, he gets it. He sees the clock clearly. He realizes he isn't blind. And there's this wave of relief. Okay, I'm good. I'm safe.
For 9 minutes.
Right, for 9 minutes, and then the clock starts ticking again.
That is the insidious nature of obsessive checking, or what psychologists call safety behaviors.
Safety behaviors.
It provides a momentary reduction in anxiety. It's a tiny little dopamine hit. You check, you see clearly, and your brain says, okay, threat assessment complete. We are safe for now.
But the anxious brain doesn't hold on to that safety.
No. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. You pour the reassurance in, but it just leaks right out.
The what if just creeps back in.
Instantly. What if it changed in the last 5 minutes? What if I just blinked and I missed a spot? What if the light in the room was just really good and I didn't notice the blur? I better check again just to be sure.
It's living life in 10-minute increments. I mean, think about what that does to your ability to just be. You can't watch a movie. A movie is 2 hours long. You'd have to interrupt it 12 times. You can't hold a deep, flowing conversation. You can't get into a flow state at work.
Impossible.
Because every 10 minutes, you are pulled out of your life to perform this ritual. It just shatters the continuity of existence.
Exactly. The source describes this as living in terror. I think that's accurate. Even though he is sitting in a comfortable chair in a safe house and he's perfectly healthy, his body is living in a state of constant emergency.
He's hypervigilant.
Totally. He is scanning for threats that aren't there. It's like being a guard at a fortress where no enemy has ever attacked, but you're convinced they're just over the hill, 24/7.
There's another symptom the source mentions that I found just really sad. It's a shift from that active checking to a more passive avoidance.
Hmm.
It says he stops driving at night, even though he doesn't have to.
This is a classic example of avoidance behavior. Now, let's be clear. Practically speaking, a lot of people with actual vision loss do struggle with night driving.
Sure, that makes sense.
As we age, or if we have cataracts or retinopathy, our night vision drops. The contrast sensitivity goes down. The glare from oncoming headlights can be blinding. It makes total sense to stop if you can't see. That's a responsible, safety-first decision.
Right. If you can't see the road, get off the road. That's just common sense.
But Arthur can see. His night vision is likely normal for his age.
He can see fine.
He can see perfectly fine. He is voluntarily restricting his freedom. He is shrinking his world.
And why? Just because of the fear.
Because the fear that he might not see well is paralyzing him. Or maybe he fears that driving might somehow strain his eyes, which is a common myth, by the way. You can't wear out your eyes by using them.
Right.
But the fear is so overwhelming that he chooses the prison of his home over the potential risk of the road.
This is exactly what the source means when it says he is letting the fear of blindness steal his life before the disease ever does. That line it really stuck with me. It's such a profound summary of what anxiety does.
It's the core tragedy of the piece. It's what we call pre-grieving.
Pre-grieving. I haven't heard that term before.
It's a psychological state where you mourn a loss that hasn't happened yet. Arthur is grieving the loss of his vision. He is acting as if the worst has already happened.
So he isn't driving at night.
Well, that's what a blind person often has to do.
He isn't engaging in hobbies.
That's what can happen when you lose vision. He is simulating the disease. He is rehearsing the tragedy. He's practicing for a play that might never even open.
Wow. He's role-playing his own worst nightmare. He's putting on the costume of the blind man, even though he has the eyes of a hawk.
And in doing so, he is making it his reality. This is the crucial point. Reality is what you experience. If you have eyes that work, but you never use them to see the world because you're afraid to, then, representatively, are you really seeing?
Functionally, no, you're not. If you sit in a dark room all day with your eyes closed, it doesn't matter if your retinas work or not. The experience is darkness.
And that brings us right back to that term we started with, phantom blindness.
Right. Right. Let's really pin this down, because usually when we hear phantom, we think of something being added that isn't there, like a ghost or that phantom limb pain.
Correct. In phantom limb pain, the brain is projecting sensation, often excruciating pain, into a space where the limb no longer exists.
Right.
The nerve endings are severed, but the map in the brain, the homunculus, still says leg, and it generates these signals. The hardware is gone, but the software is glitching and saying, hey, your foot hurts, even though you don't have a foot. It's a tragic neurological echo.
So how does phantom blindness flip that script?
In Arthur's case, the hardware is there. His eyes are the 20/20 hardware. They are receiving photons. They are focusing light. They are sending signals along the optic nerve. The camera is working perfectly.
But the software is broken.
The software, his mind, his interpretation of reality is telling him, you are incapacitated, you are vulnerable, you cannot do this.
Yeah.
It is a psychological imposition of a physical disability. He is acting blind when he can see.
It connects right back to that title, The Ghost in the Room.
Yes. The room is clear. There are no obstacles. The lighting is good.
Mm.
But Arthur can enjoy the room because the ghost is there. And the ghost is the anxiety.
That haunts him.
It haunts him. It whispers to him that he's in danger when he's safe. It distorts his perception. He might see a perfectly clear wall, but the ghost says, wait, is that a blurry spot? You better check again. It overlays a filter of decay onto a perfectly healthy world.
And it seems like this is all about control, right? Arthur checks his eyes every 10 minutes because he wants to control the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
He stays home from night driving because he wants to control his environment. He thinks if he just manages every single variable, he can prevent the blindness.
But that is the paradox of control, isn't it? That is the great lie of anxiety.
That the more you try to control.
The more he tightens his grip, the less control he actually has. By trying to control the possibility of blindness, he has lost control of his actual life. He is a puppet to his fear. The fear pulls the strings. Check your eyes now. Stay home tonight. Don't read that book. Don't go to that party.
He thinks he is the one making these safe choices.
He does. But really, he is just obeying the anxiety. He has surrendered his agency to the ghost.
So, okay, we have this psychological portrait of Arthur. He's anxious, he's obsessive, he's limiting his life. And if the deep dive stopped right there, it would be a very sad story about mental health. It would be a story about how anxiety sucks and how it robs us of joy.
And that would be true. But it goes deeper.
It goes so much deeper. This is where the source takes a turn that I found genuinely shocking.
The physiological turn. This is the moment where the story changes from sad to dangerous.
Right. Because usually we think of stress as bad for you in this kind of general way, like, oh, stress gives you high blood pressure, or stress causes headaches, or...
Or I'm stressed, so I'm not sleeping well. Vague stuff.
Exactly. But the source gets very, very specific. They lay it out. They say the reality. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol raises blood sugar. And then it drops this absolute hammer. By worrying about his eyes, Arthur is raising the very sugar levels that hurt them.
This is where we need to slow down and really look at the biology. Because this is not a metaphor.
No.
This is not poetry. This isn't just a feeling. This is chemistry. This is verifiable medical fact.
Okay, let's break the chain reaction down. I want to understand exactly how a thought, a worry, becomes eye damage. Because that feels like a huge leap. How does a thought in my brain become damage in my retina? Step one is the worry.
Right. Step one, Arthur freaks out. He checks his vision. Maybe he sees a little floater, which is normal, by the way. Almost everyone has them. They're just little bits of protein in the jelly of the eye.
But he doesn't see it as normal.
He interprets it as a catastrophe.
Yeah.
His amygdala, the primitive fear center of the brain, just lights up.
The alarm bell.
The alarm bell. It doesn't analyze. It just reacts. It screams, threat, danger, predator.
But the predator is just a tiny dot in his vision.
The amygdala doesn't know the difference between a dot in your vision and a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes.
It's a blunt instrument.
It's a very blunt instrument. It hasn't evolved to understand medical anxiety. It just knows fear. It knows risk to survival. So it sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which signals the pituitary gland, which then signals the adrenal glands. This is the HPA axis, the body's central alarm system.
It's the release the troops command.
Exactly. It's an all-points bulletin for the body. And the troops, in this case, are hormones like adrenaline and, crucially for our story, cortisol.
Cortisol. We hear about cortisol all the time. It's the stress hormone. It gets such a bad rap in the wellness community. Everyone is trying to lower their cortisol.
It does get a bad rap, but we have to remember, cortisol is essential for survival. We literally wouldn't be here without it.
So it has a job to do.
It has a very specific job. Its job is to prepare the body for a fight or a flight. Back in our evolutionary history, if you were stressed, it was usually because a physical threat was present. You needed energy, and you needed it now.
To run away or fight.
You needed to run faster than the bear or hit the rival harder.
So what does cortisol do to give you that energy? How does it fuel the engine?
It mobilizes glucose. Simple as that. It tells the liver, dump sugar into the bloodstream. Now, we need fuel for the muscles. We need to run. It triggers a process called gluconeogenesis, which literally means making new sugar.
So your blood sugar spikes.
It spikes rapidly. At the same time, it inhibits insulin production because insulin's job is to store sugar, and you don't want to store energy right now. You want to burn it. This whole cascade is a brilliant survival mechanism. It's supposed to save your life.
But Arthur isn't running from a tiger.
No.
He isn't fighting a gladiator. He isn't sprinting away from a landslide.
No. Arthur is sitting on his sofa. He's staring at a wall. He's worrying about his retina. He isn't burning off that sugar. He isn't fighting or fleeing. He is stewing. He is sedentary.
So now he just has all this excess sugar, all this glucose floating around in his blood with nowhere to go.
Exactly. He has flooded his engine with high-octane fuel, but the car is in park. The fuel has nowhere to go. It just stays in the bloodstream. And in the context of eye health, specifically for conditions like diabetic retinopathy, which are all about high blood sugar damaging the retina, this is the enemy. High blood sugar is the primary villain of the story.
Why? What does the sugar actually do to the eye? Is it just that it's not good for you, or is there a specific mechanism?
Oh, there is a very specific mechanism. It's both mechanical and chemical damage. See, the blood vessels in the retina, the back of the eye that captures all the images, they are incredibly tiny and delicate.
Okay.
They are some of the finest, most fragile vessels in the entire human body. They need to be perfectly clear to let light through. When blood sugar is chronically high, the blood itself changes consistency. It becomes syrupy.
Syrupy blood. That's a disturbing image.
It is. It's thick, it's sticky, and it creates friction. It's like trying to run sludge through a very fine pipe. It damages the endothelial lining. That's the inner wall of the blood vessels.
And then that makes them weak.
It causes them to weaken. They might start to leak fluid or even blood into the eye, which obscures vision. Or the vessels might just close off entirely, which starves the retina of oxygen.
And then what happens?
When that happens, the eye panics. It tries to grow new blood vessels to compensate, but these new ones are weak and abnormal, and they're very prone to breaking. That is the cascade of diabetic retinopathy. That is what causes blindness.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Let me trace the line just to make sure I have this full picture.
Go for it.
Arthur is terrified of going blind.
Right.
That terror creates a state of chronic stress.
Yep.
The stress dumps cortisol, which dumps sugar into his blood.
Constantly.
And that sugar then directly damages the tiny blood vessels in his eyes, which is the very thing that could lead to blindness.
That is the vicious cycle. That is the cruel irony that the source talks about. The act of worrying is the weapon.
That's heavy. It transforms the ghost from just a mental nuisance into a literal physical threat.
Yes. The fear is toxic. It's not just in his head in some vague psychosomatic way. It is toxicity in his blood chemistry.
So by trying to save his vision through this hypervigilance,
He is activating the specific biological mechanism that endangers it. He is basically sabotaging his own body in an attempt to protect it. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it because you think, well, liquid puts out fire, right?
it really makes you rethink that phrase, worried sick.
It's literal. He is worrying himself into the very disease he fears. If he could just relax, if he could find a way to lower his cortisol, his blood sugar would stabilize and his eyes would actually be safer.
But telling someone like Arthur to just relax is like telling someone to calm down while a fire alarm is blaring in their ear.
It's incredibly difficult because to him, the worry feels like work. It feels like diligence. He thinks if I stop worrying, I'll miss a symptom and then I'll go blind.
He thinks his worry is the glue holding his health together.
Yes. He doesn't realize that the worry is the symptom. He views his anxiety as a shield, but it's actually a sword pointed directly at his own eye.
This is such a hard knot to untie. I mean, how do you convince someone that their safety mechanism is the most dangerous thing they're doing?
It's a huge challenge.
The source material uses an analogy here to try and explain this mindset, and I think it's just brilliant. It really helps visualize this trap.
The garage analogy.
The garage analogy.
Yes, this is a philosophical deep dive in itself. I love this analogy because it's so simple, but it's so profound. It takes all the medical jargon out of it and puts it in terms anyone can understand.
So the analogy is this: refusing to drive a car because you might get a flat tire.
Let's break that down. You have a car. Let's say it's a beautiful vintage car. A classic. It's a perfectly good car. Engine runs, tires are full, gas in the tank. It is capable of going places and seeing the world.
Yeah.
This is Arthur's 20/20 vision.
Right, the working machine. And a flat tire represents what? A vision problem, a bleed in the eye.
Exactly. A complication, a loss of function, a setback. Now ask yourself, is it possible to get a flat tire when you drive?
Of course. It's always possible. There could be a nail in the road, a jagged rock, a pothole you didn't see.
It is a risk inherent to driving. You cannot drive without the non-zero probability of getting a flat tire. It is part of the contract you sign when you tune the key.
Okay.
But Arthur's solution to this risk is to say, I cannot accept the risk of a flat tire. The idea of a flat tire is too painful, too catastrophic for me to bear. Therefore, I will never take the car out of the garage.
He leaves it parked,
Yeah.
safe, pristine, puts a tarp over it.
And what is the result of that choice?
Well, he never gets a flat tire.
He succeeds. He has achieved his goal. He has 100% prevented the flat tire. But the source asks the key question. What have you lost?
Everything else.
You've lost the ability to travel just as surely as if the car were broken.
That's the kicker. That is the logical trap. If the car is broken, if you actually have blindness, you can't drive. If the car is sitting in the garage, if you have phantom blindness, you also can't drive. The outcome is identical.
Functionally, for the driver, the result is exactly the same. Stagnation, lack of movement, no destinations ever reached.
You don't see the mountains, you don't see the ocean, you don't visit your friends.
You just have a pristine, unused car sitting in a dark garage.
But I'd argue the garage scenario is almost more tragic.
Why do you say that?
Because the capacity is still there. If your car is actually broken, you have a reason you can't go. It's out of your hands. And there is a certain, I don't know, a certain peace in that kind of inevitability. You can grieve it and move on. But if your car is working perfectly and you choose to sit in the garage, that's a waste. It's a waste of the potential that you have. It's a tragedy of choice, not of circumstance.
It's the tragedy of unlived life. It reminds me of that old saying, a ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Eyes are built to see the world. They aren't built to be checked in a mirror every 10 minutes. If you use your eyes only to check your eyes, you aren't using them.
You're auditing them.
You're auditing them. You've become a bureaucrat of your own biology.
If you use your eyes only to check your eyes, you aren't using them. That is a really powerful way to put it.
And the saddest part is that Arthur thinks he is being responsible. He thinks he is a good car owner by keeping it safe in the garage. He doesn't realize that cars are meant to be driven. Life is meant to be lived. He's prioritized safety over utility to the point where the utility is now zero.
He has preserved the organ, but he's destroyed its purpose. It's like buying a rare, priceless book and keeping it in a plastic wrap in a vault and never, ever reading it. You own the book, but you don't have the story.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
And remember that the physiological loop we just discussed?
Oh, right.
Keeping the card in the garage, the constant worry, is actually rusting the engine. It's the sugar. So he's not even keeping the car safe in the long run.
So the garage isn't even a safe place.
No. He's letting it rot in the garage because he's too stressed out to drive it.
Wow. Okay, that layers the analogy even deeper. The garage isn't a sanctuary. It's damp and corrosive. The lack of use, the stress of the containment, is what's actually destroying the machine.
Exactly.
So we've diagnosed the problem. We understand the psychology of Arthur, this concept of phantom blindness. We understand the physiology of the stress sugar loop. And we understand the philosophical trap of the garage analogy.
We've seen the problem from all angles.
So now the source material pivots to the prescription. What do we actually do about this? Because identifying the problem is step one, but we need a solution. How do we get Arthur to open that garage door?
The first step, and it's a big one, is a reframing of the entire concept of healthcare. The source says it explicitly. Your mental health is part of your eye care.
I love that, because usually we separate them so completely. You see the eye doctor for your eyes, you see the therapist for your anxiety.
And never the twain shall meet.
Right. They're in different buildings, they have different insurance codes, they don't talk to each other.
Right. The ophthalmologist looks at the retina, measures the pressure, checks the prescription. They are the mechanics looking at the hardware. The psychologist looks at the mind, the trauma, the behavior. But what this source, and specifically that cortisol discussion, proves is that you cannot separate them.
They're linked.
They're chemically linked. The brain and the eye are connected by more than just the optic nerve. They're connected by the bloodstream.
So treating the anxiety is treating the eyes. It's not an extra thing you do if you have time. It is a medical necessity for your vision.
Literally. If Arthur goes to therapy, if he learns cognitive behavioral techniques to reduce his checking, if he lowers his baseline stress, he is lowering his blood sugar. He is physically protecting his retina. It's not just about feeling better. It is about seeing better, or at least seeing longer.
That legitimizes the mental health struggle. It takes away the "it's all in your head" dismissal. No, it's all in your body.
And for someone like Arthur, who is so hyper-focused on his physical health, this is the argument that might actually work.
That's a great point.
If you tell him relax so you feel better, he might just ignore you. He doesn't care about feeling good right now. He cares about being safe.
Right.
But if you tell him relax so you don't go blind, he might actually listen. You have to speak his language.
Use his own motivation, preserving his sight, to get him to address the mental health.
The source also gives a specific recommendation for how to deal with this ghost. It talks about community. It says, join a support group. You are not alone.
This is so crucial. Think about Arthur's life. He's in the garage. He's alone. Who is he talking to all day?
Himself. And the ghost.
He's talking to his anxiety. And his anxiety is an echo chamber. It just bounces his own fears back at him, but louder and louder each time. Did you check? Check again? Are you sure? That shadow looked weird. Is that a blind spot?
When you are alone with your fear, you lose all perspective. You lose the baseline of reality. Everything becomes a potential catastrophe. A normal floater becomes a retinal detachment. A headache becomes a stroke.
So what does a support group do?
When you join a support group or just connect with other people who have the same condition or the same fear, you break that echo chamber.
You hear someone else say, hey, I check my eyes every 10 minutes too.
And suddenly the shame just dissipates a little. You realize, oh, this is a symptom of this condition. This isn't just me being crazy. This is a known pattern.
It's validation.
Validation is a powerful antidote to cortisol. When you feel understood, your stress levels physically drop. The ghost loses its power when you turn the lights on and show it to someone else.
The ghost loses its power when you turn the lights on. That's a great image, because ghosts only exist in the shadows, right? In the dark corners of your mind.
And isolation creates those shadows. Community creates light. It's that simple. In a support group, you can laugh about the absurdity of it. You can share tips on how to stop checking. But more importantly, you can see people who have lost some vision and realize they are still living full, happy lives.
That's so true. If he meets someone who actually has a flat tire, some real vision loss, but who is still traveling, still living well, the fear of the flat tire has to diminish.
Exactly. He realizes that blindness, while obviously difficult, is not the end of the world. It's just a different way of driving. And that realization takes the teeth out of the fear. The catastrophe becomes manageable.
The source also has this directive: don't let fear paralyze you. Which brings us right back to the garage. How do we get the car out of the garage?
We have to accept the risk of the flat tire.
That's the hard part. That is the hurdle.
It is the hardest part. It requires a kind of radical acceptance. You have to be able to say to yourself, I might go blind one day.
Yeah.
That is a possibility. I cannot control that outcome 100%. But I am not blind today.
I am not blind today.
Today, the car works. So today, I will drive. It's about shifting the focus from the future, which is this huge catastrophe in Arthur's mind, to the present, which is actually quite good. He has 20/20 vision right now. He needs to inhabit the now.
It's the difference between what if and what is.
What if is the coast? What
Yeah.
if is the land of anxiety? What is reality. And the reality is Arthur can see. He needs to use that sight. He needs to devour the world with his eyes while he has them.
You know, it reminds me of that idea that courage isn't the absence of fear, but it's acting in spite of it.
Yes.
Arthur is waiting for the fear to go away before he'll drive the car. He wants a guarantee. He wants a signed contract from the universe that says you will always be safe.
And there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
There are never any guarantees.
Right.
And the fear will never go away as long as he is sitting in the garage staring at it. The only way the fear recedes is if he gets in the car, drives to the beach, watches the sunset, and realizes, oh, I'm okay, I'm living. The action cures the fear. The inaction feeds it.
That is the key actionable takeaway here. You can't think your way out of the garage. You have to drive your way out.
Precisely. It's a form of exposure therapy, essentially. You have to expose yourself to the thing you fear, in this case, living a normal life without the constant checking, to realize that it's actually safe. You have to prove the ghost wrong by living your life.
So let's recap this journey, because we've covered a lot of ground here, from the psychological to the cellular to the philosophical.
It's been a journey.
We started with anxious Arthur, 20/20 vision, physically healthy but mentally paralyzed.
And he's suffering from phantom blindness, the belief that he is incapacitated, which leads to the behavior of someone who is incapacitated.
Then we looked at the biology. The deep irony that his worry raises his cortisol, which raises his blood sugar, which actively hurts the very eyes he is so desperate to save.
The self-fulfilling prophecy of physiological stress, the mind attacking the body.
We looked at the garage analogy. The idea that protecting your car by never driving it destroys its utility just as much as if it had a breakdown.
Safetyism versus vitality. The choice between a pristine, useless life and a possibly messy but lived life.
And finally, the prescription. Treating your mental health as part of your eye care. Breaking the isolation through community. And finding the courage to drive the car despite the risk of a flat tire.
It's a comprehensive look at how we sabotage ourselves and maybe how we can stop.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Maybe you don't have vision issues. Maybe your eyes are perfect and you're not worried about diabetic retinopathy. Maybe you've never even heard of these conditions before today.
But this isn't just about eyes, is it?
No, it's not about eyes at all, really. It's about any asset you have that you're afraid to lose. Your health, your money, your reputation, your heart.
Mm-hmm.
The question the source leaves us with, or rather the question the source inspires, is about that garage. I want you to think about your own life. Is there a car that you are keeping in the garage? Is there something you are avoiding? A trip, a conversation, a career move, maybe a relationship, because you are terrified of the flat tire? Because you are so terrified of a risk that hasn't happened yet?
Are you suffering from a phantom problem? Are you grieving a loss that hasn't actually occurred? Are you living in the shadow of a ghost that only exists because you keep the lights off?
And if you are you realizing that by keeping that car in the garage, you are paying the full cost of the flat tire without ever getting to enjoy the drive? You are paying for the tragedy without ever having gotten the joy.
That's the real tragedy. Don't pay the price for a disaster that hasn't happened.
Drive the car. Use your eyes. Live your life. That's the message of the deep dive today.
It's a message we all need to hear.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Take care.